Welcome, everybody. This is going to be kind of a weird episode 1/2, if you want.
Yeah.
My name's Shane. I'm a fire captain in a busy city here in California. My partner, Eric, is a retired firefighter paramedic. He worked in a couple different departments throughout California over close to 20 years. Basically, we're just two guys in the fire service that we've been friends for a long time, and we both, in the last couple of years, have experienced our own journey through discovering that we had some mental health issues going on related to our job. So, through a lot of discussion, a lot of just kind of back and forth, spending time together, going through what we went through, we came up with an idea to just start talking about this in an open forum, have discussions that are unrehearsed, unscripted. We're not trying to come at anybody with, hey, everybody has these problems, everybody needs to do these things. This is a touchy subject in the fire service to begin with. Most people don't even want to acknowledge that it's real. We joke it down to make it seem like it's a whiny, weak, easy way out kind of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So the point is that we just want to do something that, selfishly for us, it's a great therapy because you and I get to sit here and
hang out and talk,
shoot ideas around, kind of come up with our own sort of way to cope with things over life or through life and stuff like that. So the point being, though, today we started one the other night, and we just kind of started it out of nowhere. We sat down and we just had a conversation about the stellate ganglion block shot that I got during my process, and we both felt really good. I mean, afterwards, that was me talking a lot.
Kind of normal, dude.
Yeah, right. No. That's pretty much how it is. But the idea was me sharing that with you, and then that you getting that out to people who maybe need it. So now we want to start talking about why we're doing this.
Exactly.
What we hope to accomplish with this stuff, and just kind of see where it takes us, because you've been here. So we're here at my house. We're in my kitchen. We're sitting around like we're at the coffee table in the firehouse, and we're just talking. And you've been here coming on a week now, and every single day, we've been talking about a lot, and just it's really good stuff. We even sent that SGV episode out to a handful of our friends who seem to respond well to it. So point being is, here we are, and this morning or this afternoon, we're going to just jump right into it.
Sounds good.
So I think that what I think is a good place to start is for both of us to kind of discuss that you and I both, through our careers, thought we were good.
For sure. I totally thought I was great, ready to go. And I say physically and mentally, I thought I was pretty solid overall. And then, the more we kind of get into the mental health side, unfortunately, but the truth is, I thought it was not that big of a deal. Honestly, didn't think it was that big of a deal. And, but you realize it is. The things we see, and not even just everything in life, the stuff we go through, relationships, your childhood, the job, and just the challenges of life, our mindset, our perspective, our thoughts, how we overcome these challenges. It's a lot deeper than I even realized, a lot deeper than I realized. And you reaching out to me out of nowhere saying, hey dude, I got this shot, which started that last episode. It just created great conversation initially between us. That's why we're doing this. And it's like, wow, we kind of got something here. And we sent that out to some of our friends, and they loved it. And it's like, we gotta, our stories and our journeys and challenges, even though they're the same but different, can help people. So we want to really just get this information out there. And by no means, you've said this before, we're not doctors, we're not therapists, but for one thing, we've been through a lot. And sometimes, you don't need to be a doctor or a therapist to just help somebody out and have perspective. Mentorship, just like in the fire service, some of the best things we learn is by the mentors we get, the ones that have the experience. And you can have the book knowledge, you can go get the degree, you can go do all those things, but on a real call, per se, life, you might make a lot of mistakes. So the experience and the challenge you go through can help the next person grow. So I know for me, the things I've gone through, I just really want to, help this be maybe it's a a broad thing, but like more of a mentorship kind of thing for guys of they can listen in the privacy of their own home, or they can share things, or, you know, with the wives or the families. But really, this is just content that I'm putting myself out there. It's going to be raw. It's going to be vulnerable. And hopefully my story, the things I've used from different programs I've been to, we compare that with Shane over here, can help you guys wherever you guys are at. You know, maybe you're listening to this in the morning, having a cup of coffee. Maybe you're driving down the road right now and you're like, wow, I want to learn something. And I know that's why we got into this, because that's what I do. That's what Shane does. We listen to these podcasts as we're driving. So wherever you're listening to this at, I truly hope from the bottom of my heart that we can serve you guys in some way or fashion of our stories, our challenges, and it can bring some perspective and create conversation. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
No, I think, and that's perfect, because that's the idea, is that if anybody's out there listening and hearing us, I hope that as we evolve, as we discuss things, as these conversations take us down all these different paths and roads, that things resonate with people, that they think, wow, I've thought that. I've had that thought. I've had that fight with my wife. I've had that anxiety at work. I've had this, I've had that, whatever it may be, right? So the idea that for me personally, when I was first kind of in the throes of this, I didn't know where to go to get any answers. And, you know, the majority of people you ask in the fire station, right? So if we say you're listening to this and you're thinking in your head, like, do I need help or am I fine? Most of us think we're fine. Most of us think we're you know, yeah, life can be stressful. We got a couple little issues here and there with family and kids and whatever, but even work is super stressful. But a lot of times it's deeper, based on your behaviors, based on things that are going on in your life that you don't even recognize, right? So
exactly.
Point being is, if you hear something that resonates with you, chances are there is something going on, and doesn't mean you need to go full blown in depth to, you know, the levels that you and I did at different stages, but like definitely worth exploring, right? So
for sure.
I know for me, when I speak to people in the fire service, right, you ask them, hey, if there's an issue, what do you do? Like, who do you call? Where does it start?
Ghostbusters.
All right. That's it. Yeah. And well, we are the Ghostbusters, right? We're 911. So if we, you know, all the stuff that's going on right now is great. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube. There's podcasts that, you know, we're not inventing the wheel here. We're inventing something that, it's our own. And that's good. I mean, we're going to take as much as we can from others and hopefully make something into our own. But point is that even with everything that's out there, that everybody's putting themselves out there, they're being raw, they're being authentic, they're sharing their stories, they're exposing themselves. Hey, I tried suicide, I did this, I did that, whatever somebody went through. We still have a problem. I mean, the fire service still has a serious problem with not taking it, I guess, serious enough. But another layer to that is that we think we're doing a good job. Yes. We have peer support, right? We have EAP. That was kind of what I was going to. It was like, what do we tell most people is, oh, hey, call employee assistance programs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So anyways, just, you and I, like I said, I think we have you said it earlier, we have a good yin yang. We have a different perspective, different lives, and we're also in different places. Like, I'm still active, you know, you're retired. So we can discuss those things because
I'm not anymore.
Right.
You got that's a whole different thing, different subjects. You know, it's, you know, like what you were talking about is we have a problem, and to be, you know, candid and honest, I think we don't own it enough. I really don't. And that's, you know, another reason why I, you know, feel like this is great is take accountability and understand that there are issues, and stop, you know, not running away, but stop, just own up to it and know, hey, this is a problem. And when you look at the stats of mainly towards men, because I feel like that's where the issue is we have this stigma of the mental health, but it's 80%, dude. 80% of men commit suicide over women. And when you look at that stat, that's horrible. Why? Because we're afraid to get help. We need to look strong. And the conversation we had yesterday, you know, with guys you work with, or even some of my buddies, there's a lot of guys I know on the exterior, they look strong as heck. They definitely put on that persona of what a man should look like, but internally they are suffering, like in their own head. They are suffering silently, and you said that yesterday. And, there's no reason for that. Life is too good. There's too much things that we could do. Too many wives, brothers, the job, workmates. This world needs each and every one of us. And there is no reason why we can't be open and vulnerable. You're not weak for getting help. I'll tell you one thing, it is going to make you such a stronger person, because the perspective you get, the things you learn, if you want to work at it, you're going to be such a better brother, husband, fireman, you name it. When you dive deep into yourself and go deep and look internally versus externally for things, everything else just gets better. And that's just what I firmly believe, and the more I think conversation we have, the more we open up this dialogue, it's going to create probably things either of us we don't even know how it's going to go, and we're just starting. We're going to see where this goes, and it's going to just create, I hope, awesome change, and it'll break the barriers that I feel like are pretty bad right now. And like, you said it earlier too, there's a lot of podcasts out there and a lot of different things and perspectives, and you just got two knuckleheads here trying to show their perspective, because what I've realized through my personal journey is different times in life, you're going to connect with different people at different times, and call it community, call it connection, whatever name you want to put on it. But we could try very hard to do this life alone. We're not meant to. We need a support team. We can go fight fires alone, but you've got your IC, you've got your captain, you've got your rank and file, you've got people that do positions for a reason. Life is the same. We're learning so much every day that, we get up. Every day is, not every day is going to be great, but, every day is a day to learn. And hopefully, I know for me, I don't know what Shane thinks about this, but I want to create connection through the conversations we have. So people might connect with Shane more than they connect with me. They might connect with me more than they connect with Shane. I really don't know how it's going to go, but the purpose is to make a connection, to be like, wow, I feel that right now. I needed to hear that. And if that's what it does, and if we can help somebody, brother or sister, then I feel like the mission and the goal is accomplished, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think so. Jumping right into it, when I think as we go through this process, both of our stories will unfold naturally. I don't think we need to just go into a big long story of each of us, right?
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time, but again, you were an active firefighter, paramedic for a long time in busy departments.
Yeah.
I've been in the fire service around the same time as you. I've got the weird story of kind of taking a break, if you will, in the middle of a career and traveling the world and then coming back. So
and that's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met
when you came back. We can get into more of that stuff later, stories of us probably, but
I think to start off for me, it's just I'll just say that go back to the beginning of this year for myself. I didn't realize how just what was going on with me. I wasn't really at a rock bottom place.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that we work with aren't, right? Most of us are holding it together, good or bad.
However you're coping with it.
Yeah.
That is.
But I mean, they're still showing up, we're doing a good job. Like, we're putting on that mask at work that we don't even realize it. It's not that you're consciously doing it. At least I wasn't. And I think as I look around and the discussions I have with other people, it's very similar. I mean, we're all human beings. We go through a lot of the same stuff. So I know with my whole situation, when I had to take a good long look in the mirror and realize that I no longer could just force my way through everything.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Just sheer will. And so stepping back and taking that first step, right? So for me, I'm going to share my part of it. And I'd love to hear yours. And this is the stuff I think people want to hear, right?
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, well, where do I start? Okay, well, here's where I started. a handful of years ago, 2020, prior to the pandemic. I had just lost my dad. A bunch of stuff had happened. I'd been obviously working for years and done a lot of things, but I was binge drinking in random spurts, meaning that like I'd go 2 days without a drink. I'd go 2 weeks without a drink. There was no rhyme or reason, no pattern. For the most part, I wasn't getting like super hammered all the time, but there were times I was. And another weird part about that was I could drink a lot and feel okay. I could drink a little and get super hammered.
Yeah.
There was no real pattern again, right? So I viewed that as, I don't have a problem, right? Because it's just occasional. And looking back now, having done the work I've done, really understanding it, I realized that I was suffering. I realized that I wasn't sleeping. I was using alcohol to basically like go to sleep.
Yeah.
Those periodic, right? It was when those days when I was just done, my body was done, my brain was done. That is when I would excessively drink. Or even if I thought I wasn't excessively drinking, alcohol would hit me differently.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was weird. And then of course, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, there'd be times where I'd start to drink and think I wasn't going to drink a lot. And then I just wouldn't eat. And then next thing you know, I'm just drink. As I told you, man, I woke up sitting on that couch multiple times, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., half empty glass in my hand of beer, whiskey, whatever the chosen drink was the night before.
How did that make you feel?
And then at the time, nothing. I didn't feel anything. I thought, great, I slept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, that's how I felt. And that's what I want to be honest with, because I know there's people out there. I got buddies. You'd have buddies. That's what we do, right? And It's like, and the reason that you feel that way, at least for me, was I had no consequences.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm in my house. I pay for this place. I paid for this alcohol. I work my ass off. I work overtime. I've given my wife everything. She has this nice house. She has a brand new car, material stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the justification is
exactly.
Like, we have no problems, not in debt. I'm not a bunch of stuff, right? Like I don't have any real problems when I look at it. So it's just,
is what you thought.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Like if you talked to me 6 months ago, this is the kind of stuff I would have said to you.
Yes.
If you were trying to like intervene, I would basically tell you to fucking pack sand because it's like, dude, look around. I'm good, man. Everything's solid. Like, yeah, it's okay. Dude, I didn't mean to keep drinking until 3 a.m. and fall asleep with a glass in my hand, but who did it hurt? I'm fine. And here's the problem, right? I'd wake up. I almost never got hungover. I always made it to work. I did not, I didn't drink at work. I didn't drink in inappropriate types of places like that, right? I wasn't doing things that I looked at as the characteristic alcohol-related abuse, alcohol-related where it it's like destroying someone's life. I'm like, dude, I'm good, man. Like I said, and there's no punishment because, like I said, I could drink all night and wake up and
fine.
Drink a glass of water and I'm fine. There's no hangover, so there's no punishment, right?
Yeah.
And so, but meanwhile, my wife would be devastated because what started out as a nice dinner turned into me putting down a bottle of wine or going back to the keg 4, 5, 6 times. And she just would be disgusted and go to bed. And I think, yeah, well, whatever, I'm good. I'm just going to sit here and chill.
Yeah.
And then in the morning when she was up and upset with me, I'm thinking like, I'm the victim. She's attacking me, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So this was going on for a while. So I called our EAP, and this is what a lot of our people have experienced too. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke for the most part.
Did anyone tell you to call the EAP, or is that on your own decision?
No, made my own decision. Wife and I, she had been telling me that she didn't like the patterns, the drinking of binging, and because she just never knew, right? I mean, it'd be one thing if every single day I drank, but she just didn't know when I was going to have 2 beers and be nice and be the husband she married and be a happy guy, or if I was going to have 6 or 10 or 12 beers and be an asshole, or a slobbering, slurring, can't talk, blackout idiot that's going to fall asleep on the couch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that insecurity for her, that unknown of every single day was like, what do I expect?
Yeah.
It was creating a massive amount of instability and anxiety for my wife. Meanwhile, I'm blaming her that I'm the rock. I'm solid. What are you talking about? I'm totally stable. I'm the only stable thing we have. My career, this, that, and everything. You should be good, right?
Yeah.
So she kept telling me, like, I think your job, because she'd met some of my firefighter friends. My wife's from Brazil.
Okay. Lucky.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And Brazil and most other places in the world, the culture of the fire service is extremely different than what we have. The traditional, quote unquote, brotherhood that we have is not a real common thing as much outside of this country. The career path, the actual, the life we can live, what this job provides for us is pretty damn good.
I was actually talking to her about that this morning, and my mind was blown by what you're saying, that the culture and the different lives that we live here locally compared to Brazil. I'm just like, we get treated like kings out here.
Yeah.
It seems like.
No, we do.
So, yeah.
So we got it made. I mean, no, it's a great point. And that's the thing that, so she comes from another country. She doesn't understand our culture. She doesn't understand the fire service. So I go to work for 5-6 days. She doesn't understand that. I go out of county deployment for 2 or 3 weeks. She hates not having me home, and I'm going, hey, I'm making overtime. It's like, this is for us. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, she just wants me home to hang out with.
Yeah.
So, she had said, and there were many times where I'd come home, we'd have those calls, the fires, the deaths, the whatever, and she could see it in my face. Like most of our wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, whatever you have, right? They know you, so they can see in the morning when you're not you.
Yeah.
And even if you're tired just because you ran a bunch of calls, they can usually pick up on something's different.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, beginning of 2020, she'd been busting my balls about, why do you have to pass out on the couch? Why does this have to happen? Why does this? And she kept saying, like, I think you need to get some therapy about this, about your job. And I was just like, you don't know shit. You're from another country. This is different. This is how this is. It's like, I'm good. My therapy happens at the coffee table with the guys.
Exactly.
I go out, just like you, I go out on the boats. I do this, I do that. I have all my little outlets with the guys.
Yep.
I have my own therapy to be by myself.
Exactly.
And that's how it gets sorted out, because I've been good all these years. I wasn't having nightmares. I wasn't avoiding calls. I love the job. That's another thing that I want to make clear, right? Is I think both of us, we love being firemen.
Oh, heck yeah.
Period. So anybody that's hearing this that may think like, oh yeah, these guys are complaining about the fire. It's like, no,
not even close.
Yeah, we both absolutely love it. You being retired a year, we just had a conversation. Like if we had a call tonight, you'd be able to jump out, get right to work. Right.
I can't tell you how many times, like as I'm up here visiting, there was a header just a couple days ago because you guys burned so much here in Fresno. And I'm like, man, I just want to be on a fire with my buddies and, and just go have some fun. It's like, it's not here complaining. It's here getting tools. It's here being open. It's here saying there's an issue that has been here for years. And we're just telling stories to help anyone that feels the same, or give tools from personal experience that can help you be happy and have a successful career and not have to, go off the job like I did, and the tools that you've gotten, how it's helped you marriage and on the job, so it's not here, moaning and complaining and just trying to mother F this, mother F that. It's like, no, it's meant to really be, the positivity of that word positivity. It's, I feel like it's used a lot, but truly, it's a positive outlook on how to make positive change in your life to have a good, healthy career and a good, healthy marriage.
Yeah. No, so I've been single my whole life, as you knew. I was 41 when I got married.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
that's solid.
I know I had a good run, man. I traveled the world. I had a good time. I mean, I dated lots of great people over the years, women that were amazing. I just had never really met a person that I wanted to change my entire life for. So when I met my wife, it was fast. It was less than a year. We were married, and big, huge change for me. But I thought I was ready. I was like, well, I know myself in and out. That's a blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So when she kept saying this thing about this therapy, I finally gave in. And the truth is, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but it's not going to do anything for me.
So you weren't like, I'm fully in, I'm going to do this. It was like, fine, I'm going to check the box, whatever. I'll go with you.
Yeah,
that was your mindset.
Yeah, I'll go, but I'm not. Well, she wanted me to do individual.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. She wanted to do some marriage counseling too, but she just said, like, I think this is your job. And I said, well, I don't think so. I think you're just making shit up because she likes, she's done therapy before, and she says, hey, it works. And I say, yeah, fine. It works for some people. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like my buddies are my therapy. I'm good. I'm solid, whatever. Yep. And I think prior to being married, I was. That's another whole animal when you get I mean, that's something I think we definitely can dive into. But for myself personally, when I was solo, it was different. I didn't care about somebody else
that much.
Right, at that level, who I felt responsible for.
Yes.
So getting married actually changed a lot for me on how the job affected me.
Yes.
Prior to that, like I was fine. Like in terms of that, it was very, very different. I know that I had some conversations with buddies of mine, super good buddies that are phenomenal firemen, super smart people. And I said, hey, you know, did it change for you when you got married? Like one of my buddies, he said, well, not really, but his wife was in the emergency world as well. She was a medic and a badass medic at that, became a nurse, and she works at the hospital. But he said, when I had kids, it changed the game for him when he had kids. He started like having stress about, you know, the things that we see at work and just worrying about keeping them safe. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, back to, I call the AP. They said, well, what's the deal? I said, well, my wife thinks that I'm drinking too much and that I have a problem. So I want to talk to somebody about the job and about drinking. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. And this is like, you know, some call taker that's just entering whatever you're telling them, right? And so there's not a lot of personal interaction, not a lot of connection. And for firefighters, that immediately turns us off.
Exactly.
Right? Typically that's just like, dude, you don't really care. You're treating me like I'm some number. And we, you know, that's where we immediately throw the walls up. And especially when you're in a position where, you know, you as a medic, you're the on scene, you're the IC when it's a ALS call. I mean, you're dropping drugs, you're doing advanced airways. If I'm in command as an IC at a fire, I mean, I'm in command of an entire building, right? And now all of a sudden here I am saying, hey, I need some help. I don't know what the answer is.
Exactly.
And that is super difficult for firefighters, right?
Yep. So, and then at that too, and then going to someone else, letting them know you're a fireman, you know, and letting them know like, wait, it takes a lot of humility, man. It takes a lot of humility to throw your hand up and be like, I'm willing to get help. I don't know how it's going to go, but it's just, I'm going to start, but truly starting with the right mindset, not just to check the box, but to recognize in yourself, man, maybe I do have an issue. Maybe I don't, but something's off here. I'm hearing this, you know, more and more and more and more from my wife or family members or whatever it might be. And to actually go into your mind and be like, no, I'm all in on this. You have to accept that. You have to have that personal accountability and accept that you're going to take the action, you know, that you need to what you're going to continue talking about. But that's not easy. Yeah. That's not easy.
No. And the call taker, okay, here's some numbers, call them up. Oh, okay. So I got to do it. It's kind of because, you know, when you call 911 and we show up, we know what to do.
Exactly.
We're good at our jobs. We don't ask somebody. I made a joke about how I don't ask, because I had an interaction with the doctor where I said, I don't ask you what hose line to pull to fight this fire. And he kind of looked at me funny. He said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, what I mean is I'm really good at my job, so I don't need your opinion. And this is supposed to be your job. You're supposed to be telling me, not asking me what I think I need.
That just happened a few days ago, right? I think that one did. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, that was another discussion, but I mean, I'd used that line in the past.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's one of those things that, like, so the EAP call I made, I find this doc, and decent pedigree, former military guy. Because I was like, hey, I don't want to talk to somebody that doesn't have some experience with first responders.
Exactly.
Just because that's just how it is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I go to this guy, great guy, super good dude. Within the first session, he tells me, wow, man, you're like a super self-aware guy. You're one of the most like introspective people I've ever talked to, as far as your outlook on life, the way you speak. You're very humble. You're very, you know, he's like, you're intelligent. I mean, he was very complimentary.
Yeah.
And I was just like, cool. Well, but I was like, so what do you think I need to do? And he's like, well, it sounds like he's like, with the drinking, he's like, do you have control over it, or do you need help? And I said, yeah, I have control over it, because I can not drink anytime I want.
Yeah.
And that was the truth. I mean, I literally could stop at any time if I chose to. And it had to be my decision, right? Yeah. Not because my wife told me to, but because I chose to. That was the key. Well, anyway, so I said, okay, well then, and he goes, well, yeah, maybe just don't drink for a little while with the wife and then see how things go. And I said, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And so I went back like 2-3 times. And of course, that solidified for me that I wasn't the problem. My wife was the problem.
Yeah.
Because now, hey, I did what you said.
Exactly.
And it's going to backfire.
I talked to a doctor. Well,
I went to the professional.
Yeah.
And the professional said, I'm good.
Yeah. As long as you can control the mirror.
Yeah. You need to look in the mirror.
Exactly.
So I did. I didn't drink for 1.5 years. I took the role as our PIO. And I said, well, I got to carry 2 phones. I'm always on the hook. You know, fault fires all the time here in this city. So my phone's always ringing. I was just like, I don't want to be drinking and have these things. So I just was like, and it was almost probably out of spite too, just to prove it to her that, see, you think I can't watch this.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't drink for a year and a half, like nothing, not a beer, not a glass of wine, nothing. And I'm not one of those people. I mean, you're with me right now. I'm 130 some odd days sober, 132 days sober today. My house has alcohol. I have, bottles of wine in there. There's, beer in the backyard.
Yeah.
I have
a solid keg back there, man.
Yeah. But I don't, I don't have any internal desires like, oh, I can't look at it or I can't see it or whatever. I'm like, I want you to have a cocktail and enjoy it. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can handle that. Right. So
but we still support you though.
No, absolutely. But I mean, the point is, right, for anybody listening is like, that is like me when you're in the throes of that, like, dude, I don't need help because I can control it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
see, I mean, it's like
exactly.
all the bullshit aside, it's like you think that makes it where, hey, I got it handled. Like these are choices I'm making. If I get drunk on the couch, I choose to.
Yeah.
Right. But what you don't realize is that's that train on the tracks that's picking up speed that's going to lead something 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. And that's where I was looking at now. What I look at, like, wow, I was fortunate that I was able to not turn into a full-blown train wreck, but get that train to like slow down and get control of it, so to speak. So anyways, that was my first experience, man, when I reached out. And that was, as I said, beginning of 2020. So maybe 3 sessions with a talk psychologist.
Yeah.
Nice enough person, but again, he did nothing for me other than tell me I was great.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the beginning of this year, same thing. Like when I ran into my issue, that I basically forced me to look in the mirror and realize that something was going on. My first couple of interactions were horrible. First doc I talked to literally asked me, what do you want me to do for you? You want me to give you PTSD? Do you want me to give you a prescription for a medicine? Do you want me to, what do you need, man? He goes, well, firefighters, we take care of you guys. So anything you need.
Yep.
And I immediately thought, same kind of thing. Like, I don't ask you what hose line to pull. Like, why would, like, you haven't even talked to me.
Exactly.
Don't you do tests? Don't you do blood work? Isn't there something? I mean, what the hell, dude? I'm here asking honestly and in all earnestness.
Yeah.
Am I fucked up?
Yeah. What can I do to, yeah.
It's like, I'm not drinking because I can easily stop doing that. But I want to know, is this a pattern that's going to happen my whole life? Is this, all this kind of shit?
Yep.
So immediately I was like, okay, thanks for your time. See you later. Went to another place. This time it was the opposite. I walk into this facility and it's a nice place. And the counselor comes out, says my name, and then announces in front of everybody in there, oh, you're the fire captain.
Oh, yeah, boy.
All right. So, oh, awesome. Thanks for HIPAA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we walk into her room and the whole time we're in there, she's on her phone. She's very just like, you can look at her and tell she doesn't take care of herself. And for me, that was tough because I'm just like, for me to listen to somebody, I want them to have credibility.
Yeah.
And so, and especially when I'm speaking and you're looking at your phone or you're distracted, I'm immediately out. I'm just like,
for sure. Yeah.
You're wasting my time.
Yep.
So, 10 minutes into that conversation, she starts telling me how I need to get into this program they have, which is an inpatient program that is it's going to sort me out because I'm a full-blown addict. I'm an addict? How do we get there? Again, no testing, no conversation that was much deeper than the real surface level stuff.
Yeah.
No blood work, no nothing. Oh, I can tell because I was an addict. So I can tell when a person's an addict. And I said, okay, well, I got news for you. I've never done drugs. So how am I an addict? I was like, I'm here to get an alcohol assessment.
Yeah.
You have not asked me anything about that. And she's like, well, are you drunk right now? And I said, no, I haven't drank at all since this whole thing blew up and I got to figure this out. And I just was mind blown because she refused to believe me.
Yeah. So
she gets out a breathalyzer. She, well, here, take this breathalyzer. Man, okay, cool. 0, cool. Somewhere in the midst of this conversation, her son shows up, this teenage kid. She lets him in the room while we're talking.
Jeez.
Okay, this is me like being vulnerable.
Yeah, trying to get
not
help.
Feeling good about myself.
Exactly.
Not feeling solid about a lot of stuff. My marriage is on the rocks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The job, I'm at the point where I'm taking time off because I got to sort shit out.
Yep. Because
it's starting to affect me in all realms of my life, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at it and I go,
this is what we get?
Dude, no wonder people don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And,
Yep,
and
exactly.
I started thinking like, man, if I was like in crisis, like suicidal, or I legitimately had a chemical dependency on a drug or an alcohol, holy shit, no wonder some of our brothers and sisters can't get off the stuff or get sorted out. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's so easy for us at the firehouse to talk shit about that. Like, oh yeah, like, you know, the person is just not trying, or the person, you know, whatever. So point being is like, but I'm a pretty fierce advocate for myself. I've always had personal responsibility. So as soon as this happened, I basically told her, thank you, see you later. Same kind of thing I did as with the first, experience I had. Called a BC who's very active in our peer support, and he's a great guy, great support from every angle. He was furious about it. He immediately went and got that particular facility removed from that, so someone else doesn't have to experience this.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, man, who do you call? Ghostbusters, right? Like, what's the next call? Well, anyways, I knew about the Center of Excellence from being a union board elected member for many years. So I called them thinking, cool, they are supposed to have connections all over the nation, because the facility itself is in Maryland.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, it's the IAFF Center of Excellence. You can go on YouTube, you can Google it, whatever, but phenomenal facility, great people, good staff. The IAFF, they created this in conjunction and partnership with Advanced Recovery Systems. And the idea behind it was to provide a sanctuary for people that are firefighters. So because we heal in community, and for us, like, we're a very kind of like tight-knit community, and we just have that commonality. So you can be a firefighter from Kansas or Texas or Florida or California, and most of us can kind of speak the same language, and you just kind of, that ice is broken initially. So, but I called the place just to see about, hey, do you have some doctors out here I can go to? Because I've gone to these clowns and I ain't getting help, man. This is like for people that are just, you know, maybe they have like severe problems, but whatever.
For anyone that doesn't know, that's, if you're not a fireman listening, it's maybe, you know, a family member, the IAFF. I don't remember if you said what it was, but it's the International Association of Firefighters, and it's stuff that we pay into from our, you know, union or whatnot to get help for instances like this. So
yeah, it's But anyway, so I mean, I think we'll definitely do an episode on the Center of Excellence, just because I'd love to promote my experience there, because I think that, like, I shared it with my own personal crew and another crew for several hours about what I went through, and I know a lot of them were really interested in the information because it lets them know that it's there. But so, you know, the center was great, but basically I didn't have. They said, hey, you need to come out here based on my answers, right? So again, I'll get into that another episode, but so that was kind of my road into this stuff. And when I look back, I mean, when I went to the center, not only did, so I did find a therapist here in town that is great. She works with first responders, through that BC from peer support. He was able to hook me up. And she's the one, I give her the credit. She's the one that identified the fact that, hey, you're not a piece of shit.
Okay.
You're not broken. You're not messed up. She said, I think you need to make a couple little tweaks. She said, I think you really don't have that much going on, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
But she said the root cause isn't drinking. She's like, alcohol doesn't seem to be your problem. Your problem seems to be that, you know, you're trying to be the rock for everybody. You're trying to take on too much. You're basically, your cup is overfilling. Just like our buddy that was here the other night, his great analogy of just like, you know, that one drop of water that goes in a cup that overflows it. And my cup has been overflowing for years.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I give her the credit. I thank her for being able to get me to see that, because even when she told me, PTSD, I thought, I don't know. And especially like in our macho ego driven careers, first thing I think, right, is like, oh, everybody's going to say, yep, you're saying that because you just don't want to have to deal with the repercussions of your actions. You don't want to deal with consequences. You're making excuses, because it's what we do.
Yeah.
We basically minimize people that actually say these things. And so, and unfortunately, there are people in this career that abuse it. There are people that seek a psychological retirement, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
But what sucks is then it ruins it for the people like yourself who fucking needed it at that time, you know? And so it's just a vicious cycle, like we've talked about. So anyways, that was kind of mine. And so I share that because I've had these conversations with people who I know it's resonated with.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of share mine, have you share yours, to where our discussion is just, again, this is the beginning. This is basically like, if anybody's listening to this podcast, and chances are they're at least thinking about something.
Yeah.
Right? Something is off in their life. So where do you need to go? And hopefully, like, through our discussions and through us, that whoever's listening, hopefully they'll reach out. If they don't, at least maybe we can give them some nugget that will get them on the right track.
Exactly.
Because I was doing what I thought was right. I was listening to the podcast. I was reading the books. I was watching YouTube. I bought a sauna last year. So almost a year prior to me having these problems, I'd already bought a sauna, hot tub, all this stuff. I was doing sauna. I was doing hot tub. I thought, yeah, cool. I'm doing this work. I'm good. I'm keeping myself on track. So I thought I was solid. I really did. And then again, even when the doc told me that, I thought, nah, it sounds like an excuse. But as I delved into it and I realized it was, I'll just close out by saying that, like, for me personally, what I believe it was PTSI, and that's the injury.
Yeah.
And through the work, I feel healed.
Yeah.
And I said this on our SGB thing. Do I think that I'm done? Like, cool, I can go back to how I was before? Like, no, I think this is a lifelong commitment.
Yeah, for sure.
Currently, I'm committed to sobriety. I don't know. I'm not putting a stamp on, like, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to have a glass of wine, or in 2 years, I'm going to have a glass of whiskey. I don't know. I mean, right now, I have zero desire to drink. I don't feel powerless to it. I don't feel like it's something that's going to ever, like, control my life.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a part of who I am. I don't like the idea of not having freedom.
Yeah.
And also having the ability to make my own decisions. But at the same time, like, I'm certainly not going to risk the work that I've done.
Yeah.
Because again, everything I've done has led to where I'm at now. So
exactly.
That was how I started.
How are you feeling right now?
Oh,
overall,
dude, life changing from everything that I've done. And I'm like I said, you've been here almost a week, man. I'm good. Life's good. I'm just chilling. Still things are going on that I could easily send me into different spirals. And just like most of us, life's life. Things happen every day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the awareness I have, that SGB shot I talked about with you, coupled with all the therapy I did, because when I was at the center, I did the equivalent of like 5 years of therapy in 28 days. So, and again, I'll get into that in depth. But I want to hear, like, from you, like, when I worked with you, you and your wife were already starting to have problems, and I remember that real specifically. But I remember like my impression of you was this guy that was, like, totally put together. You're a professional musician. You're a humble guy. You don't brag about yourself, so I'll do it for you. But you're a phenomenal medic. You're just this, like, cool cat, good looking. You got the cool car. You're living down in SoCal. You're this drummer. You're in this bitchin' band. You know all these famous people. You got this hot wife. It's like, what does this guy have to have? He's fucking got it all. Like, and that's how you presented yourself.
Exactly.
Right? So you were always put together, super fit guy, dressed good, always looking good, never looked disheveled, never, like, you weren't the guy that was like, dude, he's still in bed at 10 in the morning. You're up early, you're working out all the time, you're part of the crew, you're laughing, you're joking, you're always, like, Mr. Positive. You see these guys that were just burned out, ragged out on calls, that would treat patients like shit, just because they were just so burnt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I never saw that with you. I was your partner. I never saw you treat even the most shitty call we went on with a person who, was being aggressive with us. You were still just such a professional and a good person to him. So,
well, thank you.
I had no indication, man, like, that you were struggling internally. So my question, right, is basically, take it, man. What was your path on that to reaching out? And we talked about this before we started. I'd love for you to mention it too. It's like, you've said it before, you lost your wife to suicide. But prior to that, you talked about her seeking therapy and help, and you feeling like me, like, I don't need that. That's weakness, blah, blah, blah. So get into all that for me.
Man, my story is long. I'm sure this will be a few episodes, but I'm going to try not to ramble, guys. I'm going to try to get, I'm just going to let it go and be open, and, hopefully it can resonate with some people. But yeah, so, her name was Sable, and we met when we were teenagers, and just awesome personality. And just I actually met her at a gig I played when I was younger, and without getting into too much detail on that, go a year or two, a few years, we end up exchanging numbers and hanging out and stuff like that, and ended up getting married. And there were some things that happened in her childhood that I didn't know about at the time till later on, that we got to know each other better. And unfortunately, she I found this out years later. Unfortunately, she got sexually molested when she was a kid, and I didn't know that in like I said, it was a few years before I figured that out. And we would have some issues, and we would have miscommunication things, and my childhood wasn't the best either. We all have our stories of how we grew up, or abuse, or whatnot. But the point is we all have challenges to overcome, and we have to deal with them. And how I dealt with it was not dealing with it. My thing was, when I came in the fire service, so I was the first one in my immediate family to, actually finish high school, get my diploma, go to college, get a degree, get a professional career. That's, in my eyes, my family would say this too. I'm kind of like the oddball in my family when it comes to just some things, not like in a bad way, but my parents will say, you're just determined, you're disciplined in things that we never could be. And they're open about it. And they're like, you just do your thing and you get focused and you go. And so, I try, but we all try, and not having that example of knowing you've accomplished a lot of things. I can't say on your own, because we all have support, some way or fashion, but a lot of it was me just trying to figure it out. I know a lot of people out there that are listening to this, they have the same story. Maybe their parents didn't teach certain things, or their mate, maybe some of those things may have happened, and there's miscommunication or whatever. So as time goes on, it's really hard for me to stay on track sometimes, because like the story is all over the place. Yeah. So I'm going to really, if I get off, tell me, well, so, I mean, rein me back in, but sometimes it's, there's a lot to it. Yeah. So anyone listening, if I get off, sorry, but I'm going to do my best to stay on track. But, so as time goes on, I kind of start noticing like there's some issues, there's miscommunication. It doesn't take away from the love that I had from her. We were rocky due to a lot of the stuff that I didn't know how to deal with from a child, and communication and having to help her. You got two kids, I would say, that loved each other but didn't know how to even take care of themselves. So how can they take care of each other? That's at the end of the day, that's what it was. You can love someone with your whole heart, but if you don't have the right communication skills, or even the right love inside yourself, and you don't know that, the reason you tell me I was always happy was because that was a coping mechanism for me. Mm-hmm. And I realized, the deeper we get into these podcasts and stories and stuff like that, I would laugh everything off. That is a coping mechanism when you deal with a lot of trauma. You can't focus on the negative, because there's so much negative that has happened. You just kind of laugh everything off. You laugh it up. Oh, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. When in reality, it is a big deal, and you got to deal with those things. So my coping mechanism was to not deal with it. It was to laugh it off and just, it's not that big a deal, keep going. Which that has its place too, but there's a place to where you got to go and work on a lot of things. So as time goes by, I became a full-time fireman at I was like 20, almost going to be 21. We get married. She was still going to college. At that time, gosh, gorgeous, big blue eyes, brown hair. So that's actually how she got her name, Sable. Her mom used to be a hairstylist, and there's actually there's a color called sable brown. So Sable got her name because her mom was a hairstylist, and it was the color brown. Sable's hair was brown, so she got her name Sable. And I just thought that was such a cool name. I've never heard that name before. I was like, wow, that's a pretty rad name, and with her bubbly personality and so much, she was so, so amazing, and just had a heart of gold. But when you're hurting inside, it's a deep pit that a lot of people struggle with, that some never get out. And unfortunately for Sable, with the job, with my childhood, her childhood, my lack of communication, I was never really into alcohol per se. There were definitely times where, on probation or different times or stressful calls, I would have to, drink whiskey or whatnot to get to sleep. But that wasn't my thing. my thing was, it's embarrassing to say, but I would have you know, it's crazy to say it, but I would have an issue looking at things that I shouldn't be looking at, and we all know what that is. And that was my coping mechanism, and I knew there were issues with that. We ended up talking about that. She knew I had a problem with with that stuff, so that breaks, that'll create miscommunication. And we got over that hump. But basically, as time goes on, I leave. So I was an ambulance operator, just kind of like you were in Long Beach. We didn't talk about that, but I started super young. I was an EMT at this place called Doctor's Ambulance in Orange County. I was there for a while. Then I got on with Apple Valley Fire Department, or actually prior to that, I was an AO with it was in the city of La Habra, LA County Fire. I was there for a little bit. Super fun. I mean, because I was in the house with LA County Fire and got a ton of experience with great crews. It was probably one of the, besides being with Long Beach, it was one of the funnest times. Like, I can look back and I'm like, this was so rad. You're just with your buddy, and I remember us just having so much fun playing basketball, working out. That's where I learned a lot about cooking and station life. Even though I was a fire explorer and a reserve and pay call at Apple Valley Fire, I wasn't full time in that station at that time. So when I got full time as an AO in with LA County Fire in the city of La Habra, because the city of La Habra used to be City of La Habra Fire, LA County Fire took over the city of La Habra. So then the city of La Habra had AOs. They still kept it. And so I was able to work in with LA County Fire and run with different stations in LA County. And it was a really great experience. I think I started that at like 19 or something like that, 18, 19. So just learned the station life, learned a lot of the culture, the different meals and whatnot. And so I thought it was making me for sure a better husband. So I'd bring those same kind of things home, and I'd be like, hey, babe, check this out. I learned this meal, I learned that meal. And so anyways, time goes on. I do that job. I get on with Apple Valley, and then things happen in 2009. The economy, we go to recession. Economy happens, so a lot of people are going to be getting pink slips. I know if anyone's been in the fire service, around those times, it was, if you were in a small department, it was a pretty scarier time. Knowing, we had BCs taking early retirement. We had, captains looking at things. We had people with seniority, like, wow, am I going to lose my job? If you weren't, had some seniority, like, you might get let go, man. So guys are testing, guys are looking for different places, for different jobs. And so at that time I was testing for different places, and I was testing at Long Beach. So it took, I didn't get hired. I was looking around places, but I didn't get hired till 2012. Mm-hmm. So Long Beach didn't hire for like 4 years. And so I get onto Long Beach, and me and Sable lived down in Temecula. And at that time, when you don't hire a place like Long Beach, when you don't hire for 4 years, when they're used to doing academies twice a year of 24 to 28 guys, they're going to be short. You're short guys. So what's that going to do for the new guys that are coming on after 4 years of not hiring? The guys were already massively getting hurt. They were just working overtime, like mandatory. They were never home. So I get on the job, and I remember it's like family day, family night, and you go in there and you get basically an orientation of what to expect, as a fireman there. You go through, with the backgrounds, you get all that stuff done. I went over as a lateral from Apple Valley to Long Beach. And I remember there was a certain chief that was like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's the door. We're going through a lot here. Some guys can handle it. Some guys can't. But they showed the video, and they said, if you're not willing to A, B, C, and D work, you're not going to be home much. All those things. It's a busy department. Basically laying all the truth out there. If you can't handle this, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Just being super honest. And we would love to have you, but it's going to be hard. And it's going to be brutal. So I remember wives crying. Anyway, so yeah, that was hard. So obviously I didn't leave. I chose to stay, so I get on, and we start working a ton of overtimes, and our marriage was, I wouldn't say perfect. There was the issues, that miscommunication issues and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say it wasn't like where it went. When I would work. So we were on what's called, it was like a modified Kelly, 4s and 6s basically. If people don't know what that is, you work every other day for 4 days, you get 4 days off. Every other day for 4 days, you get 6 days off. And so that was pretty much what she was used to.
Right.
And so we pretty much, had a schedule, and she would, on my 4 days, maybe I worked 1 extra day, so I had 3 days off. And if it was summertime, you have a strike team, maybe 14, 20 days, but you could prepare for those things. And so even though it was, an unknown schedule, it was a known schedule because at least you had the 4s and 6s. So when I go down to LB, that was my dream department, man. I was like stoked. I remember doing station visits, and I was like, this place is so rad. It's where I wanted to be as a fireman. We get the fires down there. They got the tiller. They got the roadways. They got the ocean. They got, an awesome drill school. The stuff I heard of the drill school of, anyone that doesn't know how we do it in Long Beach down there, it's like you're acting captain, engineer, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and you're doing it all in the academy. And so once you come on the floor, you feel like you're just like, you're on it. You feel like you can carry the world on your shoulders, and you just want to freaking get out there and do as much as you can. So as time goes on with Long Beach, I'm not home as much, and I'm noticing I'm getting more numb to things, but not really thinking it's the job. I'm just tired more. But what really hit it for me is when Sable was like, where's the husband I married? You're not the same person. Our sex life was a crap. It was just, I was not present at all. Anytime we were talking, I was looking up, down, left, right, definitely not in the moment. And I remember, there'd be times she'd be talking to me, and then I would just be zoning off on things. If I'm not falling asleep at the dinner table because we're so tired, she would just laugh at me. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, this is a joke. You're just not even here anymore. And and I would get mad. Here I got this great job. I'm making great money. We can eat how we want to eat. We can travel whenever we want to travel. Every September, in our anniversary, we'd go to Hawaii for like a month and a half because it was just awesome. So I'm like, we got the most money we've ever had. You're a dental hygienist. I'm working for a great department. We're making great money. We can travel. We have no kids. Not that we were opposed to kids, but we had freedom. Freedom to do what we wanted, when we wanted. It was the how it looked on the outside, like you said, of this, I don't want to say, we're the perfect couple, but on the outside, fit, healthy.
That's what came to my mind, is like, that's the things from the exterior. You two are literally the epitome of the perfect young couple. Career is going great. Everything's going, world's at your feet. So
exactly.
You have no problems. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right? So, and nobody knows what's going on the surface. And that's kind of what, like, I want you to get to, like, because I want you to share, obviously, in depth with your story, but just for the purposes of this one, right? Like, what was the point when you finally, like, as I told you, I had never talked to a therapist, right? I had never even made a phone call saying, maybe there's something wrong. Not even acknowledging that it's wrong, saying maybe.
Yeah.
Right? So what for you, because you mentioned about Sable had done therapy prior to you, right? Like,
no, she never did.
Well, I thought not even necessarily therapy, but, we talked about things like, listening to Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah. That was later. That was later.
Okay.
Yeah, that was later.
So when did you first essentially look for help outside of what you were doing? So meaning, like, making a phone call to a doctor, trying to see a therapist. When did that start? And what do you think, like, looking back, because like I said, I can tell you how I felt back then.
Yeah.
I know it's completely different now, but our mindsets were different. So
where
were you at? Were you were with Long Beach, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then what did that look like? Because that's the stuff I want people to understand, because that's, how do they reach out? Where does it go? And what's it going to look like? Because it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not.
It's going to be messy. You're going to have to be an advocate for yourself. You're going to have to probably see multiple clinicians. So if you just expect to make a phone call and it's all going to get fixed, you're going to give up, just like I did after one time, and say, oh yeah, this guy said you're great. And then you're going to continue down the road. So for you, what was that like?
So gosh, I rambled a lot there.
Right.
But basically, when I didn't know I needed to get help. And so I remember where it really all started is with Sable. And we would have open conversation of like going to therapy. And I was like, gosh, I just hear so many horror stories of that. Like, unless you both want it, it can just drive you guys apart. So I never really, I honestly thought, I was like, why do I gotta go to some kook? Like, seriously, why do I gotta go to a therapist? Like, we got the boys. You go to the station. Hey man, try this, try that. And fortunately, a lot of my friends, they were never like for divorce or anything like that. It was like, hey man, make your marriage work. You know, like it's the grass ain't greener on the other side, bro. Like, just, you know, that's who you love. Like, you know, do what you guys need to do. And so, as far as therapy with me and Sable, it was actually with one of my good buddies from Long Beach. And he's like, hey, you know, me and my wife have had these issues. And so, you know, here's a person you can go see. And so that's how it started for us. That was the beginning of the therapy thing. And I was so nervous, but I trusted this awesome fireman, and he does Ironmans, and he's a stud, man. He's a stud. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. You know what? I'll go try it out. So we went to this therapist, and it worked out honestly pretty well. But what I didn't know, there was already cheating going on. I really didn't know that she was doing that, because I was like totally disconnected. And it's not to put her down or anything. I'm just saying that when I look back now, I'm like, oh, that's why it didn't fully work initially, because there was stuff going on in the background that I didn't know about, that she was afraid to fully open up about when I was trying to fully open at therapy, and we get in arguments. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but he's not here for me. And I'm like, okay, well, but I'm here right now. And there was like just a lot of like, you know, the analogy, it's like the missiles and the bombs, and then, you know, you're going to go, you know, chaos, whatnot. So that's how it started for me, was basically opening up to a buddy, and he just like, dang, dude, like, you know, you should probably go to therapy. And so we did.
Which I think is common in the firehouse. We trust each other. I've heard this a lot. People I work with, same thing. Hey, yeah, go to marriage counseling, right?
Yeah.
So you hadn't even seen an individual therapist.
No, I haven't seen an individual therapist.
You're thinking marriage problems, job has nothing to do with anything.
Job's
rock solid. Yeah. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't affect me.
Yep.
That's your mentality at the time.
At the time, okay. I'm putting it firmly, we're just not compatible.
All marriage.
Just all marriage.
Okay.
And
so that goes on for
that goes on for like, yeah, that goes on for, you know, I think it went for like a year.
Okay.
You know, a few times with, you know, I think it was like, you know, once every couple months we'd go and whatnot. And I can't say it truly helped. It was kind of just like, it was a box checked. I wasn't fully in, and I know she wasn't fully in. We thought we were, but there was miscommunication. Anyways, so as time goes, I start really noticing like, wow, like what happened to us? What is going on with us? And so I start disconnecting even more, because I'm like, I went to therapy, this didn't work. And so we try other therapists, and we go down the whole route of therapy, not even knowing, like, maybe it's the job. Why are you numb? Why, you know, where's the miscommunication from? Is it childhood? Is it not childhood? Is it the job? Is it what's going on here? No, what I found out, getting to the root problem was very difficult. It was a lot of like, okay, well, maybe it's that. Okay, yeah, you got this, or you got that, or maybe this medication will work, or maybe, you know, maybe it's his problem, maybe it's your problem. So like, okay, well, let's go separate. So then we did individual at that time. And that's what went to individual. Let's work on ourselves, and then let's come back to marriage counseling. And
now, did you do individual with the same therapist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did individual with the same therapist. Yeah. Okay. And that kind of worked a little bit, but there was no true like homework. It was just like, I'm going to go talk and get stuff off my chest.
Talk therapy.
It was talk
Did
therapy.
You feel like that therapist understood on the first responder side of things?
No.
Like when you discuss things, do you think that they understood what a massive part that was?
Nope. When I go back now, zero.
Yeah.
I look back, I'm like, they were like, hey man, what like, amazing person.
Sure.
But it was like, I feel like way out of the realm of what they should be, what this particular one should be trying to help.
Yeah.
It was like mainly book stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like not real like, okay, how long have you been a fireman? What's been going on? Are these calls bugging you? What's your childhood? What are you doing? What's the communication like? It was very surface.
Sure.
And that it kind of turned me off to therapy.
Yeah.
You know, and I gave it, you know, we gave it a couple years on our own with that. And I was like, this is like, come on, this is stupid. And does that then now with
and
that,
your marriage isn't getting better? So
marriage
you're
is not
seeing
getting
results,
better.
So
Working more.
I've heard a lot from my friends that I work with. Yeah, you know that they've
Yep.
been doing it over the years. I got buddies that have been putting in effort for years and years and years, and their marriage is still on the rocks. So
Yeah.
they're not. But typical firemen, we just keep trying.
Yep.
Right. So okay.
So as that goes on, not even taking it into consideration the lack of sleep that we're getting, the numbness from other things, the culture at the fire department, trying to be the tough guy. There's a place for being the tough guy. There's a place for not being the tough guy. There's a place for being vulnerable, and there's a place like, you know, there's a time and place for all that stuff. But when it's your marriage, it's a time to, you know, be vulnerable and be real with yourself and look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, this is why I have to focus on this. And then it went back to my mind of when I was in orientation of, hey man, if you're not cut out to do this job, there's the door. You know, there was already a lot of marriages on the rocks at that time because they were working so much that how can you have a healthy relationship if you're just never home? You know, you look at the divorce rate with firemen and cops and military, just the job alone with what we go with, but then the schedule, the lack of sleep, the lack of communication, all those kind of things. So we just don't have I just feel like we don't talk about it enough of the tools needed to be successful on both sides. And so then I'm like, man, did I make the wrong decision? Should I have not taken this job here? So now I start doubting myself. And I was super involved in the department at the time. I was helping with like drill schools. I was on the hockey team. I was doing mountain bike rides. I was taking rookies. I was at a truck house. Yeah. You know, I was doing all the right stuff and I was having a blast with it. And I started noticing things. I'm like, okay, well, I got to start cutting some of these things back. And in the fire service,
super hard to do.
You know, yeah, it's a part of it. And then when you start cutting some stuff back, you know, the chatter starts happening. How come they're not doing this? How come they're not doing that? How come this happens? It's like, well, I'm sorry, but like, this is my number one over here. You know, and I got told for years, you know, the fire service is number one to you, Eric, that's your number one priority, and it's obvious. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a step back. I think at this time now I was probably a fireman for like 11, 12 years, somewhere around there. And I'm like, okay, I got to take a step back and start focusing on my marriage. So, well, I already was with the counseling, but it was getting deeper. And I'm like, something bad's going to happen, like worse is going to happen. So anyways, as time goes on, working more and just, I'm getting more numb. And actually what happened with me is I know now, at the time I didn't know, but my nervous system was getting jacked. So I was having to keep a trash can with me everywhere I was going. On the rig, there was a trash can. I would miss calls because I couldn't get off the toilet. Because I would have diarrhea or it was so embarrassing. And I work with different people and just like, are you trying to dodge a call, dude? I'm like, no, I was embarrassed. Just like, I don't know what's going on. You know, and so I didn't know this whole IBS thing, the nervous system, PTSD. So things were starting early. And then the same thing was happening when I was with Sable. She had the same issues, which is crazy. She would, anytime she ate, so you're dealing with two people with something we don't know we have. And it's just creating this not wanting a chaotic marriage, but this mess that's just ready to explode. When you love each other, you're trying to do the right stuff, but you're not getting the proper help. You're trying to get the help, but you're not getting the proper help. No one really sat you down and was like, okay, let's take a step back and let's really see what the root of the problem is. So basically that's, it all started probably in 2000, I think around 2014, somewhere in 2015. And I couldn't drive but an hour or two without having to go to the bathroom. Like I just had IBS all the time. Playing gigs, I was like, oh my gosh, in my mind, I'm like, where's the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? You know? Going on strike teams, it was like, dude, can I do a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour drive somewhere? I'm going to have to freaking poop on the rig on the way up. Like, so I would try to sometimes dodge strike teams. I like going on strike teams, but I'm like, I got to get someone to cover for me because I don't know if I can take a 6 hour drive, you know? And I was super embarrassed. On the outside, it looks like, oh, this guy's dodging, you know, trying to dodge a strike team. And no, I want to make the money. Like in reality, would I love to go camping with my buds and just go hang out and go? Of course we would, you know. Oh, I would. And so same thing would happen at home. And we'd be driving and just, it was brutal. Anyway, so the whole IBS thing, that's when it all started. And so then I started checking out of calls. Then I remember I was annoying guys. Like, you know me as, oh, how, you know, you were never not nice to a person and you know, or whatnot. But then I started, you know, checking out of calls, and guys were getting annoyed. Like, what the heck is this, dude? Like, I've never seen a fireman act like this before. Like, you're not even doing your job anymore. And I'm like, wait, what the heck? And in my mind, I'm like, I've got this going on. You know, I've got that going on. I'm trying to like just put everything together. And that's when everything started. And I remember talking to guys, like I was opening up. I was crying in the station. So no one knew how to help me. Like, the answer was, well, you know, hey man, it ain't only you, bro. You know, it's not you. Like, you basically pick your shit up and figure it the F out. Yep. You know, and I was looking for help. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I want help.
Right.
No one knew how to help me. And I was actively looking at this time. Yep. And I'm like, I want to be better. I know I'm not doing the job like I should be. I know my marriage is suffering. Like, what's going on? And you're running call after call after call. And it's just like, you know, okay, well, we all got problems, bro. Like, and yeah. So I was like, okay, well then I'm going to suck this up, you know? And then I'm checking out the calls. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The IBS is getting worse. And so then I start checking out the marriage even more. And then now she starts checking out and she starts doing her thing. So as time goes on, we end up going through divorce because I find out some more stuff. And trying to work on it. We felt like I've tried everything I could do to make this work, and it's just not working. So I was like, hey, we're gonna go our separate ways. Yeah. You fast forward to 2019. She ends up moving out. I move out, or I keep my spot. She moves out, and I get a call February 2019 that from the San Diego investigator's office asking how I know Sable Paget, and basically, you know, I said, yeah, that's my wife. And they found her dead in her room, a welfare check. And I'm just like, what? And she committed suicide, and she took a gun to her head and she shot herself. And there was a suicide letter of just guilt of, it was all her fault. And, you know, she never gave me the love that I did. Like, she didn't like, just, she was blaming herself for everything. And, you know, which isn't true, but, yeah. So anyways, we can talk more about the suicide, you know, later or whatnot, but, you know.
Well, I know your story when it comes to this part of it, but so following that, right, when, we know you went off the job, one of your captains did a great job intervening, letting you know that you needed to take some time for yourself and sort some stuff out. And then you came back, and then you weren't quite ready to be back, and then had to go back again into the type of process, and ultimately ended up in you retiring from the fire service because, as you and I have discussed, you know, it was just, you just said it, you were looking for help and nobody was equipped to help you. And that's one of the problems, probably one of the biggest ones, is that as firefighters, we fix everything. We want to help everybody. And we're not equipped in the fire stations to do this when somebody's suffering.
Yeah.
Right. And it is. And what you said is true. I mean, the bottom line, we got to get on the truck and run the calls.
Exactly.
And so, like, when your headspace is like that and everything's falling apart, you need to be away from work. You need to find an alternative. There's other things to do, but we don't recognize that. I mean, we think we're helping, but hey, go get some help, call the therapist, go this, do that. You know, it's just, there's not enough training yet out there for us to really see what's going on. So even when you went through this with your wife's suicide, the guys did the best they could, right?
Yeah, and at that time too, like, a lot of people were going through it. Yeah. And no one was taking time off work because now everyone's getting forced. Now I take a day off. Now it's like screwing your buddy.
Screw your buddy. And you want to be there. I mean, the therapy happens at the station. We know that. We think that. We think, you know, I mean, you told me, like, after her suicide that you basically went right back to work within a pretty short time. Yeah. Considering how intense that is. So, you know, I think that, like, for this, right, our first shot at just kind of throwing out some stuff. I'm hoping that anybody that's listening to us talking about this, that this will make you want to listen to more.
Yeah.
Right. As we get more in depth on this stuff, because really it comes down to a lot of conversations I've had. Like, people don't even know where to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so by sharing what you just shared, I hope that will make somebody more empathetic towards others in the firehouse. So instead of doing the value judgment on, hey, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Especially if, like you started out with such a good reputation and working hard and doing all this stuff, like seeing such a drastic change. I mean, as a supervisor, that's a kind of 101, right? Like that's a captain simulator test where, you know, your engineer's great and he shows up, now he's sleeping, he's not doing the rig. I mean, they give you those for a reason.
Yeah.
Is to recognize those types of things. So I think that, you know, following what happened with her, you know, your whole experience is another whole episode in and of itself of like the different types of therapy you went into.
Exactly.
All the stuff you did. I mean, again, I'll share my stuff, but I think that's a good start on where you start. Like, how do you reach out? Like that, what you said is like, there's many people that may be listening to this that are already doing the marriage counseling and it's not working.
I know we'll talk about that stuff in other things of just, you know, in the ways how, from my personal experience of the marriage, you know, of signs we can recognize as men or as wives, and to truly listen, you know. Well,
I think that's our goal, right? The goal is as we discuss these things in however long form conversation these go, whether they're an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And then once we get them posted, you know, have them labeled as to what the topic is that we're kind of focusing on, hopefully.
Yeah.
And anybody that wants to can search specifics. As you know, we started out with the SGV shot just because you were super interested in the information. Once I told it to you, you said, hey, why don't more people know about this? And I said, well, I think this is why. So we got it out best we could. And now this is the start for us. So anyways, let's close out with basically what this whole podcast idea is great, right? Anybody can do it. We got an iPhone here. We're sitting here in my kitchen and, you know, press record. Here we go. Right. So we're calling this the RIC Team.
Yeah.
You and I kind of kicked around some ideas for names. You know, we didn't want to be cheesy. We didn't want to do the fire geek thing. We also didn't want to be over the top. We're not therapists. We're not doctors. We're not clinicians. We don't want to come off that way. We're not trying to push anything on anyone. We're just two dudes that want to share our experiences and that hopefully reach out, touch somebody else, and then, you know, we build a network. That's the idea behind this, is to create this open forum conversation where eventually we can have other brothers and sisters on with us to talk and share their stories, share parts of their story, whatever people feel comfortable with. So ultimately, we kicked around a bunch of ideas. I came to you and asked you about what you thought of resiliency in chaos. And you said you liked it. And I said, well, it's kind of the cheesy fire geek thing, right? It's the RIC Team. And you said, oh, okay. And you kicked that around too. But ultimately, we both really liked the idea because, you know, we're both firefighters at heart. And the RIC Team, right? You want to explain to everybody what that is?
Yeah. So basically, what the RIC Team is, it's Rapid Intervention Crew, RIC. Some people call it the RIT, Rapid Intervention Team. But we have Resiliency and Chaos. And so when there's a significant event on the fire ground, basically it's a team that's going to help save and rescue our own. So with like mental health, and it's a topic that we really don't talk about much, just like the RIC Team, it's kind of something we don't like to do the training per se, but we know it's needed. And we know whenever there's a RIC Team deployed and there's a good save, and there's a good outcome, everyone's super happy and stoked. Like, hey man, we got our guy, we got our girl, you know, everything is good. It was a bad situation, but a great outcome. So that's what we're trying to do here, is basically help our own, man, help our own. And hopefully it doesn't go down to, like mine went down to, we can talk about more, but even, you know, me going down that suicide route, you know, so hopefully it doesn't get that low for, you know, our brothers and sisters, but we just want to put this information out to mainly help our own, but anyone that it resonates with. So just like a RIC Team on the fire ground, we want to throw a RIC Team in the firehouse and help our own.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect example is, your suicide attempt is you didn't have a RIC team to activate.
Mm-hmm.
When you're into your fighting fire, when you hear on the radio, hey, RIC's been established, there's a handful of people outside, what they've done. They've softened the structure. They found the ingress, egress. They've come up with 2, 3, 4 different plans of how to get in and get to you as a firefighter who gets into trouble, right?
Yeah.
And in the situations that you encountered and went through and struggled through and tried to get help and everything and tried to help your wife, and you had no RIC team to activate. And I'm the same. I was going through my own personal stuff where no one in my life saw any chinks in the armor when it comes to the way things were. They didn't think that I was suffering from anything. I didn't, with all certainty. I didn't even know. I mean, you knew something was up. I didn't.
Yeah.
And so point being, but even when I finally acknowledged it, I didn't know, I didn't have the RIC team to activate to come in and get me, right? So we teach our people, activate RIC early. Don't wait till the mayday is so bad that there's a very little chance. It's just like, if you start to think you're getting lost, it's better to call for that help now.
Exactly.
Get those trained professionals coming in to get you as quick as possible, because the likelihood and your survivability is going to just ramp way up on the percentage end. So it's the same thing here. It's like, the idea is that you and I, again, we're not professionals, but we've been through a little bit here. We kind of started to build a network. You've got doctors, clinicians, intelligent people that this is their world, credentialed people.
Yeah.
I've got a handful of those people as well. We've got the Center of Excellence. We're starting to build this network this is our grassroots campaign to build this up, and it's going to take everybody. It's going to take all the people that are listening that care enough to put something into this, to be part of that RIC team. And that, I think you both, if I can speak for you on this, I think we both felt like that's kind of a cool way to look at it, is because we're all trained for RIC.
Yeah.
Every single firefighter listening is trained to be on that RIC team. You don't have to be a specialist to do it. But you said it perfect. It's like, nobody wants to be on the RIC team.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about mental health. Nobody wants to talk about trauma, PTSD, issues at home. We want to have fun at the firehouse. We want to run our calls. We want to do our thing, And there are some people that handle it better than others. Some people have didn't have a traumatic childhood.
Exactly.
They're married to the person they need to be married to, and they are in a healthy relationship. Basically, they just have a different mental health than others.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of broken people in the firehouses. That are, trying to save other broken people. And that's where you're hoping that this whole forum allows us to just reach people. Hopefully you're driving in your car, or you're at work, or you're working out, and you're listening to this stuff, just thinking, getting your wheels turning. And and if people can reach out to us and say, hey, talk about this, hey, talk about that, and give us ideas on directions, or say, hey, don't, whatever we're doing, it's, again, we have our goal is to do no harm. Our goal is to only help. And I know for me, it's every conversation with you. As I said, you've been here a week. I always feel good, man. After the conversation, it's like a therapy session.
It is, man. It is, dude. And hopefully this can help others.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just I think for those of you that are probably chuckling over the name, it's
I was.
Yeah, we both were. We still are, right? We're not typically those types of guys, but I do think there's some validity to it, and I hope that it picks up some steam. People enjoy the intent behind it. Yeah. And again, if you're struggling, it's like, that's kind of the thing, right? Activate that RIC team, meaning that you got to start reaching out to the right people.
Exactly.
As you said, you were looking for help, but you didn't know how to even find the right people.
Yeah.
So we're here. We are some of the right people.
Exactly.
Even if we don't know you don't know us.
Reach out.
We're not going to make fun of somebody. We're not going to, we're not going to take it lightly, no matter what level somebody might be at.
Yeah.
Even if you're early in the stages of it. There's so many of our young people that are suffering right now, and we'll get into all of that. We'll get into training people early in their careers, better academy curriculum.
Exactly.
Because another thing is, I know there's some people, I know for certain there's some people thinking in their heads, this is going to create a culture of victims. It's going to create a bunch of people who, every time something bad happens, they're going to say PTSD.
Yeah.
And that is not the intent.
No, not even
because
close.
All of this stuff is, again, we can heal.
Yes.
Humans can heal. We heal better in community.
Yeah.
And our community, our fire community, is a really special one. It's very unique in the world.
Exactly.
And to be able to leverage that is pretty special. So I think that's what we're both trying to do here.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we'll close out, unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, I just wanted to, piggyback on what you said. It's like, it's not creating a victim mentality. It's creating actually an own it mentality, and know where you're at. and understand that there are issues that you're going to overcome, and we're going to help you find solutions so you can be the best version of yourself. How cliche that sounds. Not just the first couple of years of your career when you're all gung-ho and young and got it all, everything's ready to go, and you don't have years of those sleepless nights and lack of communication or numbness or whatever, but it's creating a community of honestly more self-discipline and more accountability of self and living up to and owning where you're at. And we take on this job. We take on, okay, I think, if I remember right, you take about 10 years off your life when you become a fireman. I remember that when I was in academy, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Not saying that always happens, but that's the average. We know what we're getting into. We want to do this, but there are things that aren't talked about that I wish they were. So now you are just better prepared. We can't prepare for every single little thing, but one thing that can really help us is getting our mind in the right place to when challenges do come with the right tools. As long as we're consistent and we're disciplined with our life, then we can overcome the challenges with a way better success rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's what we do. I mean, we're all gung-ho about training. We train all the time as firefighters. This is just one more tool in the toolbox, as we say. Another slide in the slideshow.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's a pretty damn important one.
Exactly.
So, I look forward to where this takes us, man.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. It's been good. Cool. So anybody that's listening, we appreciate it. Like I said, this is our first RIC Team podcast. Check us out on the next one.
Yeah.